Hello friends, my name is Julie and I am one of Christian Assembly's Kingdom Partners, and it is a privilege as always to be able to send this message to you today for today's daily touch point. Our reading comes from Matthew chapter 22, and I encourage you to look at the entire chapter, but I want to focus on a few verses that may be a familiar passage to many, but I pray that God will speak to us in a fresh way through these words. So if you look at verse 34, it's talking about, starting in verse 34, it's talking about religious leaders have gathered to try and test Jesus. And there is an attorney, a lawyer, it says, who asks Jesus a question. It says, "Teacher, what is the greatest commandment in the law?" And everyone in that circle, whoever is sitting there, if they're students of the law, they know what the answer should be. And Jesus quotes scripture and says, he quotes the law and he says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and prophets." Another translation says that Jesus said, "Love the Lord your God with all your passion and prayer and intelligence." Most important, first on any list. Second, set alongside, love others as well as you love yourself. These two commandments are pegs. Everything in God's law and prophet hangs on them. So Jesus was quoting from Deuteronomy chapter 6. Starting in verse 4, it's same. It says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength." And then it continues to say, "And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates." And imagine, like, everything about life was to be about loving God, about reminding ourselves as we rise, as we go to sleep, throughout our days, the words we speak, the ways we interact with the people around us, to love God with our passion, with our prayer, with our intelligence. And one of the things that I find really interesting is it says, "Love your neighbors as you love yourself." Well, we can't learn to love others unless I believe we received the love that God has for us. So as we begin to walk in the identity that we have as God's beloved children, fully and pleasing, acceptable, and known by God, that's when we can begin to learn what it means to actually love God and to love the people around us. When I think about 1 Corinthians 13, you know, again, another very familiar passage of scripture that talks about, well, if we're to love God, well, what is love? Well, love is patient, and love is kind, and love does not envy, and love does not parade itself. It's not puffed up. It does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. Well, I don't know about you, but I do fail. I fail often in my days, in my words, in the ways that I sometimes interact with my family, in the ways that I can interact with my neighbors. But I believe, again, it's back to, like, as we learn to be loved by God, to be known, to know who He's made us to be, is when we actually can learn how to love Him and to love the people around us. That God's Spirit and the fruit of God's Spirit, the joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control, all the things that are the fruit of God's Spirit, that those things become possible when we begin to understand who we are as children of God, made in his image, loved by him, that then we can begin to learn to walk in these commands of loving God with all that we are. So may God guide us. May we continue to grow. May we continue to seek God as we rise, when we sleep, in our words, in our actions, in everything that we do. May God continue to grow us more and more to be people loved who also love. So be blessed, friends.